Welcome back, Tuesday edition of PFT PM. Charean Williams, Mike Florio, and we are very pleased to be joined now by John McClain of the Houston Chronicle. This is a difficult subject matter, but it's important to get someone like John who's got the experience and the knowledge of the Houston market and the dynamics there to help us better understand how all of this is being reacted to and digested locally. So, John, we appreciate your time. And let me just start with the story of the day. We're now up to 16 lawsuits. We've become aware of another one during the commercial break. What's been the general reaction by the average Houstonian to what, as of a week ago, we knew nothing about?
Well, first of all, Mike and Charean, thanks for having me. A week ago at this time, most of the fans were mad at the Texans for creating issues that would cause Watson to want to be out so bad. And then when Watson and Busby used social media for the first time on Tuesday night, that caught everybody by surprise. So right now, everybody's got an opinion on it. As you can imagine, everybody waits every day for the next shoe to drop, so to speak. 16 now, Tony Busby, who, like Rusty Hardin, is a high-powered, well-known Houston attorney, two heavyweights squaring off against each other. But right now, people are still kind of in shock.
John, what is the Texans' view on this? They have not said much other than, we know it's out there, we're waiting to see whatever, just a blanket statement. How do you think internally, though? You're there, you know what's going on in that organization. How do they view all of this and what's going on with Deshaun Watson?
Well, I can tell you what they think, because once David Culley had his meeting with Deshaun Watson on Zoom 3 weeks ago, and Watson reiterated why he wanted out after Culley told him what the plan was to rebuild with him as a centerpiece, they made a plan behind the scenes. They were going to trade him. They were going to get through free agency, and then all those teams that have been calling Nick Caserio, the general manager, he would get back to them. And the idea was that multiple teams would be bidding for Watson, who has a no-trade clause, and that they were hoping to maximize it and ask for 3 1s, 2 2s, a defensive starter. And if somebody wanted to throw in a quarterback, that would be fine. But the idea was to try to draft in the first round another franchise quarterback, and that's all gone down the tubes now, because nobody's going to make a trade anytime soon, because there's not going to be a resolution anytime soon.
Do you know whether the Texans, John, have any idea where this is going from a league perspective? The NFL clearly is investigating. There are various options available to the league office under the personal conduct policy, up to and including placing Deshaun Watson on paid leave. That would be the ultimate irony here. At a time when Watson has said, I'm never going to play for this team again, and never be paid again, obviously, by the Texans, there's a way these dominoes fall where he's on the team, not on the roster, getting full pay, not actually allowed to play for the Texans, and there's nothing they can do about it other than cut him.
Well, they're not going to cut him, Mike, and you're right when you wrote on Pro Football Talk about the commissioner's exempt list and what that means, which is just what you said. They have just started the investigation. Tony Busby said all of his clients, up to 16 now, and there's talk that it could be as many as 24, they will cooperate in the investigation. Then they're going to have to talk to Watson, people on his side. And so the Texans don't have any idea what's going to happen. And it's going to come down in every instance. It was a he said, she said. There was never anybody else around, according to the lawsuits. And so I would be surprised if this ever goes to court. As an attorney, Mike, you know how these things play out. And I'll tell you this, the Texans are waiting to see what happens, but I don't see any way Watson ever plays there again. And I'm guessing there's some team that would pop up before the draft and lowball them and say, we'll take the problem off your hands, because they know eventually it'll be behind Watson. He'll play again, and he'll play great.
John, as journalists, we don't ever get to really know pro athletes, but we know them obviously better than fans do, and we're around them, and you see them out in public, and you know how they are in the locker room and elsewhere. How surprised were you that Deshaun Watson was associated with everything that's come out now, up to 16 cases?
Well, I'll say this, Charean. I know athletes a whole lot less than I used to before the NFL put such heavy-handed restrictions on the media and the time we're allowed to be around players in the locker room. I knew the Oilers a whole lot better than the Texans, but still, I've covered Watson since the day he was drafted, and I was shocked. I still am. Every day I'm shocked. And I've not tried to say I think he's guilty or innocent, because he's innocent until proven guilty. He deserves to be heard. The women deserve to be heard as well. A lot of people have opinions. He has detractors. He has supporters. And I'm trying to keep an open mind about it as we find new allegations every day.
Yeah, John, that's been the challenge. Look, I'm very respectful of the legal process. I understand how it works, criminal and civil. It takes time, and there are presumptions and protections that apply to someone who is accused. But in the court of public opinion, there's no requirement that people withhold judgment. There's no time limit for when you can come to an opinion as to whether or not you think someone did what they're accused of doing. And one thing that stunned me over the course of the past week is just the way that this has been a landslide against Watson with everything Busby has done. And I've got concerns about some of his tactics. But in the court of public opinion, Busby has mopped up the floor with the Watson camp. And even today, I don't know, what's your overall reaction to the way they've handled this, up to and including the statement that came out today from Rusty Hardin?
Rusty Hardin is the attorney to the superstar athletes, and at some point, I think he'll be firing some broadsides that are much more effective than what he's done so far. I think he mentioned in his statement about they don't know who they are. They're Jane Does. They only know one because, according to a sworn affidavit from Brian Burney, and Brian is Watson's marketing guy, that the first plaintiff tried to blackmail them, according to Watson, Burney, and Rusty Hardin. But I'll guarantee you, Rusty Hardin, at some point when he collects more information and he's ready to come out with his own news conference and take on Tony Busby in the court of public opinion, he will do it.
John, you've seen a lot in your 30-plus years. I don't even know what you're up to now, but of covering the Oilers first and then the Texans. Have you ever had a year like you've seen over the last year with the firing of the head coach and the hiring Jack Easterby running the organization, and then you get a new GM, and then now the Deshaun Watson stuff from wanting to be traded to these 16 lawsuits? It's just been an unreal year. Have you ever had anything quite like this in your history in Houston?
Well, I have. In 45 years of covering the NFL, we had 1993 with the Oilers, a player blow his brains out during the season. We had Babygate. We had Buddy Ryan and Kevin Gilbride, but that was during the season and the team won. The worst season I've ever covered was the last year, 1996, when the Oilers' last season in Houston before they went to Nashville. And that was like a funeral every day, but that was no fault of the players or coaches. In this situation, you have like something almost every day. You wait to see what's going to be next. Will it be a player? Will it be a coach? David Culley, new coach. Nick Caserio, new GM. They want to start the new era. This is a rebuild. The team's terrible. They're going to be worse before they get better. And they thought they were going to be able to get a franchise quarterback out of a trade. And I guarantee you they're not going to be able to do that anytime soon. So things here are bleak, as you can imagine, and getting bleaker by the day.
Yeah, John, this is the 20th season since the Texans joined the NFL, and they feel like an expansion team for the first time since they were an expansion team. All of the transactions over the course of the past week, all of the new players, the turmoil, the upheaval. From a football standpoint, I don't know what to expect, but does it feel to you like this is just a brand new team starting from scratch?
26 players have signed one-year contracts. They've only given one 3-year contract, and that was to a punter. And they've got new players at almost every position, Mike, and it's exactly like you're starting over. It's almost like Nick Caserio's 6-year, $30 million contract has got a bonus for transactions and how many players he can bring in on a 1-year contract. But the team was terrible last year, and he knows it. He's been a personnel man his whole career, and so he is trying to out with the bad and hopefully in with a little good. But all we know in these 1- and 2-year contracts, some of the guys won't be there when they go to the 53-man roster, and a lot of them won't be there at this time next year, but they're trying to make them more competitive and help their special teams. But now you're going to have Tyrod Taylor is the starting quarterback, barring injuries. And injuries cost him his last two jobs at Cleveland and the Los Angeles Chargers. So they got a big issue at what was the most important and best position on the team with Watson.
Yeah, John, owners are trying to make up from all the losses last year from the pandemic, so they're counting on full stadiums. But I can't imagine, you're out and about in the community all the time, I can't imagine that Houston fans, Texans fans are excited about this team and they're expecting full stadiums. How is this going to affect, obviously the on-field product is not expected to be good, but how's it going to affect fans in the stands and the recovery from the pandemic by the team?
Before last season, they'd sold out every game going back to the first preseason game in 2002. And their president, Jamie Roots, who was responsible for the business side and did a great job in the community, selling sponsorships, club seats, suites, everything, he resigned. And they've got a credibility problem. I wrote last week, this is the worst credibility problem in Texans history, and the third worst I've ever seen, to when Bum Phillips was fired by the Oilers in 1980 and when they moved to Nashville. This is the worst I've seen, and the only way you're going to build that back up is show some progress, and fans are hoping that Nick Caserio and David Culley can do that, but man, right now, they don't have a lot to work with.
Back to Watson, and let's just summarize so everyone understands what your opinion on this is. You still believe he'll never play for the team again. You believe he'll be traded at some point. Do you have an idea of when you think that transaction will be feasible for the Texans and for a new team?
Mike, for several weeks I've been writing, I expected him to be traded by the April 29th, the first day of the draft. And now 5 quarterbacks are expected to go in the first round. If they waited until after, say, the trading deadline next season there and some quarterback gets hurt, they're not going to get near what they could have gotten before this draft. If they wait till next year's draft, they're not going to get as much. I think maybe a team will give them a conditional pick, say, hey, we'll give you a 1 this year and a 3 next year. And they say, okay, but let's put some conditions in there to get another 1 and a 2. I don't think he'll be cut. I think, as you mentioned earlier, he'll get paid if he's on the exempt list. The only thing I know about this situation is there's not going to be a resolution anytime soon. You guys know how the wheel of justice turns, and you also know how NFL investigations, how long they take because they're so comprehensive. So this is going to be a topic we're discussing for months.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.